is on the move. Families by the hundreds of thousands are seeking for themselves new lives in new communities. With industry expanding in almost every section of the country, workers are turning to those areas which can best put their skills to use. And this unparalleled expansion of our commercial life brings with it the need for living accommodations, temporary housing, apartments and homes built at a rate heretofore undreamed of. But only a part of the construction is for transients. Families in old residential areas are realizing their long-cherished dreams of finding modern homes in outlying communities. Where cattle grazed peacefully only a few months ago, now new houses cover acres that stretch as far as the eye can see. But how does this mass shifting of population affect the lives of the individuals who are a part of this move?
Honestly, Tom, every time I have one of your steaks, I make a vow that I'm going to make John go and build us an outdoor grill the next day.
Well, they're a snap to build, John. If you really like one, I'll help you build one.
Now, that'd be crazy with a cook like you next door.
Oh, John.
That's the same answer I get, Mary, whenever I mention us getting a new power lawnmower. Why should we, with one right next door?
Speaking of the lawnmower, I suppose you'll be using it in the morning.
No, as a matter of fact, I won't. We're going to church in the morning.
To church? But what about the brunch at 11?
We called the Murphys and explained.
Oh, gee, Mary, if you put off going to church all these months, it looks like you could put it off for one more Sunday. Jean Murphy's gone to a lot of trouble. Practically everybody out here will be there.
I know. We hate to miss it, but, well, frankly, Helen, our children gave us quite a scare last night.
Penny and Pete?
You just wait. Your day is coming with your kids, too.
Come on now. What did the kids pull that's so awful you have to drop everything and take them to church? It is for their benefit, isn't it?
Well, yes, partly.
Well, the kids went to a big party down at the lake last night. On weekends, we allow them to stay out until midnight. And it's a rare occasion when they miss it by 5 minutes on the early side. Well, you can imagine our surprise when they came in at 11 o'clock, both mad as hornets.
My dear brother, I'm going to say this just one more time, and then I'm never going to speak to you again.
Oh, Penny, you ought to hear what the fellows say about Bill. And what Bill says about the girls he goes
Oh,
with.
why don't you mind your own business and keep your nose out of mine?
You silly idiot.
Pete, now you apologize to your sister immediately. We don't talk that way around here.
I guess that puts you in your place, Sir Galahad.
Well, if you could see where I drug her out of tonight, you'd understand why I'm calling her an idiot.
But children, what's wrong?
That's exactly what we're going to find out. Now, were you two at the party till late tonight?
Sure.
Yes, we were, Dad.
Well, what happened?
Well, the party began to break up around 10, and... Well, you know Jimmy Blaine, the boy I had a date with. Well, his father asked him to have the car home by 10:30, and...
So?
Well, Bill Evans suggested that he drive me home and we'd stop by the lakefront club and have a dance. And so I did.
Penny, you know better than that.
Oh, it's all right. Jimmy didn't mind. And I wouldn't care if he did. That Jimmy's a square.
Penny!
Well, we just began to dance when Pete here came in. Well, I wouldn't have even come home with him, except I was afraid to look Bill in the face after the scene Pete made.
Well, you can imagine how I felt when I walked into the lakefront club and saw my own sister. And with a guy like Bill, why, he's my age.
Oh, he is. Is there anything else wrong with him?
There certainly isn't. All the other boys are just jealous because Bill seems to get all the girls.
Yeah, do you know the gang he hangs around with? Besides, no decent guy's going to take his girl to a place like the lakefront club.
Well, if it's such a terrible place, what were you doing there?
I didn't have a girl with me.
All right, that's enough from both of you. It appears to me there's a few things we better straighten out around here. Well, we won't go into details, but you can imagine what followed.
So you really played the heavy father, did you?
I should say I did.
But you see, Helen, we realized after the children had gone to bed last night that even though we'd laid down the law, we had done nothing constructive to help them.
So what does the church do?
Parents can talk until they're blue in the face, but they can't cover all of the people their children might be with or all the places he might go. Young people have to have a sense of values, a standard of their own.
Of all the time in their lives for us to move to a place where there isn't a church for miles. But we did. So it means we have to get up an hour earlier and go.
Oh, come on now, you two. Be honest. The most important thing when you're Pete and Penny's age is doing what everybody else is doing.
Well, that's another reason we want to get to the church, Tom. So they can make some friends there. They're much less likely to get into mischief.
While they're in church.
Now, look, you don't have to take the word of an old-fashioned parent for that, Tom. There are plenty of statistics to back it up.
I heard a report at the PTA on some facts that came out at a Senate subcommittee. It seems that the vast majority of juvenile delinquents have no church affiliation.
Okay. But my point is, Penny and Pete will see the kids once a week at church, or as many times as you let them have the family car.
It's not ideal. But you wait until your Tommy and Sarah get this age. You'll find you're willing to make quite a few sacrifices.
For what? What about the rest of the time? What about the kids they go to school with 5 days a week?
If their parents are concerned about them, they'll see that they go to church, too.
You've lived here 6 months before you got excited over it.
Well, that's true. There's no excuse.
And what about the kids whose parents aren't concerned? And never will be, unless the kids become a statistic like the Evans, Bill's parents.
Do you know them?
I sure do, and believe me, that kid doesn't have a chance.
What's wrong with his parents?
Oh, nothing's wrong with them. They just don't have time for Bill. They think a big allowance compensates for their neglect.
He's a good-looking boy. I don't blame Penny for being interested. But I have heard of the crowd he goes with.
Well, I feel sorry for Bill, and I wish there was something we could do for him. But we can't gamble with Penny. He's their problem.
That's where I think you're kidding yourself. He and all the rest of the youngsters out here are your real problem.
So what are we supposed to do? Keep our children out of church because the others won't go?
No. Just don't think that taking care of your kids solves the problem.
How did we get off on this? Everyone ready for pie?
Good.
Well, that sounds good.
Hi.
Come in.
Oh, hi, Tom Hoy.
Okay, John.
Jean Murphy sent you these, but I'm afraid they're ruined.
How thoughtful of her.
Well, how's the brunch?
Oh, it's okay. Everyone missed you.
Well, these are lovely.
I wish you could have seen them when they were fresh. After the brunch, we went on to the club, and then when we got home, you weren't here.
Well, we went back to church. Pete and Penny went to attend the youth fellowship.
Yeah, you really went in for church in a big way today, didn't you?
Yes, we sure did. But, Tom, you were right. This thing won't work.
No, I didn't think it would. It's just too far to go every Sunday. Well, it's a major expedition.
No, that's not the point. We can make it all right because we go as a family.
We were thinking of the children whose fathers play golf on Sunday or mow the lawn or whose mothers give brunch parties.
Hey, look who's talking. They go to church one Sunday, and that gives them the right to start preaching.
No, seriously. You were right the other night, Tom, when you said we needed church out here.
I said that.
Well, not in so many words, but you made it perfectly clear that otherwise a lot of people will never go to church.
So?
Well, why not start one?
Sure, and we can make John the preacher.
Don't you think this community needs a church?
Why, sure, it would do us all a lot of good.
You're right. Everyone needs the faith in God that the church stands for.
Look, you can't be serious about this.
I was never more serious in my life.
Be reasonable, man. Where is there any land for a church? And where are you going to get the money to buy it? Do you have any idea what it costs to build these days? And who's going to organize the church in the first place?
I don't have any idea, but I know it can be done. Why, new churches are starting up all over the country.
But how do you begin?
Well, Mary, we might call Dr. Goodrich. Maybe he can help us.
Who's he?
He's the pastor of the church where we belong. But, John, do you think you should call him? After all, until this morning, we hadn't been there for months.
Oh, I don't mind calling him. He seemed friendly enough this morning.
You mean you're going to call the minister of one church and talk about starting another?
Hello, Dr. Goodrich? Doctor, this is John Grayson. I know it's 10 o'clock at night, but, well, how do you start a new church?
How do you start a church? What are you doing, John? Trying to make out a report or something? Sure, I know that community out there where you live. Is that so? Well, there ought to be a lot of others that you could get interested in a church, too. Now, first, let me get in touch with some of the church leaders. They may already have plans for that area, and just waiting on somebody to take the lead. No, not at all, John. We'd like to help you if you'd let us. Our church may even be able to help some financially. Why don't you and one or two of those neighbors have lunch with me one day this week? How about Tuesday? Fine. It was sure nice to see you and your folks in church this morning. I'll see you Tuesday then. Goodbye. I guess that was the way every church got started, in a big city or the small town. Some person saw a need and decided to do something about it, even if it was only opening their home for the starting of a Sunday school. Of course, today we have mission boards and church extension societies that can help John and Mary and persons like them in getting a church started. However, if you live in a community where there is no church, why don't you write me a letter and tell me your denominational preference, Methodist or Baptist or Presbyterian or whatever it happens to be. And I will get some church leaders, your own church leaders, to get in touch with you about the possibility of a church in your area. Just take a card or a letter and address it to me, the pastor, in care of this station. And be sure to give me your name, your address, your city and state. And don't forget to tell me your church preference, Methodist or Presbyterian or Baptist or whatever it is. And I'll see that one of your own church leaders gets in touch with you in the very near future. Have you ever noticed that when an advertiser pictures America, he shows a community or a neighborhood or a city, and always near the center of the picture there is the spire or the tower of a church? That is America. For the church is the custodian of the principles that made the foundation of this nation and its freedom. Then we had better never forget this verse in the 11th Psalm. If the foundations be destroyed, what can the righteous do?